Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing well. Today we've got another action figure review for you, and we're going to jump straight into it with these Bad Batch Elite Squad clones. Now obviously Bad Batch is on Disney Plus at the moment. I am enjoying it thoroughly. Obviously episode 3 came out today. I just watched that. And this is where we got to take our first look at the Elite Squad clone troopers, or the clone era troopers, as I'll get into. We should call them for now. I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm enjoying the Bad Batch. I really like that time period between, Order 66 and the transition into sort of the new Empire and the introduction of stormtroopers and stuff like that. So it's really interesting to see that. It is quite slow at the moment, obviously, because they're developing story, so that's fine, and there's going to be action to come. Of course there is. It's definitely going to happen. It's kind of like Mando. You are going to have those filler episodes to bring you up to speed in terms of the story. So we're going to jump into it. Do subscribe if you're new here. Plenty more content to come. I'll be uploading very frequently. Moving forward, I got a lot of action figures just came in on pre-order, so plenty of videos up and coming. Do like this video as well if you enjoy it. So let's jump into it. So first of all, obviously we've got the Elite Squad clones here. So what are we going to get in the box? As you can see, I ordered 2 Elite clones, and you're only going to get the blaster in the pack. But of course, with stormtroopers and clone troopers, you're not always going to get many accessories unless it's a kind of specialist trooper. So obviously we're not expecting much on that front. So that's nothing surprising. In terms of the blaster, it's just the standard clone blaster. It isn't that impressive. I am a little bit not disappointed. I just think that you can kind of see, it's just the kind of one-tone grey. It's got the detail from the moulding, and obviously these blasters aren't two-toned or anything. It's not really that. It's more just something about when they're grey like this and not black, or at least black with a bit of kind of the grey or silver weathering. I just feel like it's just not, it's not as detailed as it can be. But in terms of screen accuracy, it is the blaster from the Clone Wars that we've seen, and obviously from the Bad Batch. So I can't complain there in terms of what you get. You're not going to get much more with a standard trooper. And obviously straight off the bat with the Elite Clone Trooper, as you can see, he looks awesome. And you could always combine the accessories and weapons and things that you get with different troopers. You could always give these Elite Squad troopers some of the other clone blasters that come with the phase 1. You get obviously the longer kind of heavier repeating blaster, and the smaller one you could do the pistols, the blaster pistols like Captain Rex, or you could sort of give him the the Death Trooper weapons from when they do transition to stormtroopers instead, and that would fit in with him really well. Obviously straight off the bat then, not much in the box, but not much to expect with troopers. But moving on to the design, I watched the 3rd episode today, and it looks awesome. They do look really cool, and in hand these guys look even better. Obviously, as you can see, that helmet looks fantastic. They look so cool. I love that they've implemented the green visor like they did with the Death Watch. Not Death Watch. Why am I saying Death Watch? Just Death Troopers. So the helmet looks awesome. The build obviously is just kind of the standard Phase 2 clone armor, but it looks really good. It looks good in black. A lot of the detailing is just the mold work, but again, they've nailed the sculpts on the molds. So in terms of paint application, there isn't much. So obviously not expecting much to be wrong. But in terms of the design, I'm loving this Elite Squad Trooper. I mean, just take a look at that. That guy looks awesome. So moving on to the rest of the figure. Now, there's a couple of things going on here. So, of course, the character is new. I'm not saying that it's just a rehash or just another way to just try and add some sponge characters. These characters obviously are very pivotal because it's the point where the Empire is about to be switching to stormtroopers, and like these elite, what we think is at the moment clones, are kind of like the specialists, that end up hanging on in the new era. Obviously, with the Death Troopers is the newer version. Now it's interesting from episode 3, like we've seen straight off the bat that these specialist clones, at least, aren't necessarily clones underneath. I don't know if in the subsequent Bad Batch episodes we're going to see that they are clones for the foreseeable future until something happens. But straight off the bat, it's the clone armor, but obviously, if I can focus that for you, it's not a clone under there. However, with these clones like the stormtroopers, they've got the blank head sculpt. This is black, so that because it's black on black. If it was the white standard head sculpt we'd seen recently, that is the clone head, obviously that'd stick out, so that's good that that's black. But that's got the clone head under there, so on the one hand you can say, right, well, maybe there's going to be clones. On the other hand, you could say, well, look, in the new stormtrooper builds they've put a clone head under there as well, and they're not clones either. Unless we're going to see that initially there's a transition where clones are implemented into these squads of stormtroopers and then they're kind of phased out. We don't know, but in terms of at the moment we're going to consider them elite clones. In terms of the build of the body, as I said, really nice sculpt work in terms of the design. They've nailed, if I can get this into focus for you, they've nailed the clone. He's got a few attachments and sort of specialist gadgets on his belt, kind of intercom bit, so it looks really nice. However, this is pretty much the same, it's the same clone trooper body reused, so nothing too fantastic in terms of new things, but I'm glad that they've redesigned this and released it. It's better that we we get something that works than they try and redesign something that doesn't need kind of redesigning. However, with this clone body, as I've talked about before, the clone isn't as articulate as the stormtrooper is on the new bodies and kind of the old bodies really, but I'm sort of talking about the new bodies. It's just you'll see later, he doesn't hold a blaster as naturally and comfortably in a firing position as a stormtrooper does. Like, he's got the bending in the arms, but the way the blaster goes, you kind of have to really pivot his hips to make it seem natural. And although that is part of the body type, and you can kind of see with the clones, like their body type is obviously different to the stormtroopers, you'll see a lot of the times they're very hunched over as they run and shoot, in terms of in the Bad Batch and stuff like that, and the Clone Wars. So maybe with this body type it's something that couldn't be avoided. But in terms of the body, nothing new. But let's jump into the articulation. So in terms of articulation, quite stiff straight off the bat with the toe. Now, he doesn't have, from what I'm seeing, he doesn't have a toe point. He can go up, as you can kind of see there, so he can kind of point to the sky, but in terms of pointing down, he doesn't have the ability to go back on that heel. It kind of stops there, so you can't push back, so that's a little bit disappointing. In terms of a pivot, there is a pivot, so I guess that kind of makes up for it, because you've got that ability to sort of go flat-footed, but that is potentially a little bit of a posability problem. In terms of in the knees, I like, again, how with the new build they've not made the knee pads a different colour. Obviously with this being black on black, that would really be sticking out like a sore thumb, but in terms of the knee, we've got double jointed knees, which is really good. In terms of his legs, at the top there, you can see that there's a bit of a, I can get into focus for you, there's a bit of a pivot, so he will come up to 90, but he kind of opens his leg a little bit, so as you can see here, he kind of swings that open, and that's good articulation, not necessarily very natural at all times, but again, you can kind of manipulate him in a way. You can't get him to go just completely knees up straight. You have to have him at this bent out kind of angle, but at least he'll get his legs up, you know. I mean, like, he's not got a great split, but at least he can get his legs up, sort of forwards, and back. He can come back a little bit. Obviously there's a little bit of hindrance on this back piece, stopping him going all the way back, so not fantastic in the legs, but not terrible either. In terms of, you know, getting him in dynamic poses, if you're using wire and stuff like that, I'm sure you can do some magic. But if you're trying to pose him in a way that looks dynamic but he's standing up of his own free will, you might struggle there. In the hips, so he has, it's kind of like with the Death Trooper on the kind of like Death Stormtrooper build, the lower part of the torso doesn't move but the top does. He will go completely 360, which is, you know, it's really good. He got a really good side to side dip. If I can get that into focus for you, look at the helmet, it looks awesome. So he's got a good dip side to side, which is nice. He's got quite a good sort of front and back flex, which is nice because it means that, again, like we've talked about, he can go back and look up and get more range that way. You know, if he's looking forward, he looks down. He's got kind of the chicken head going on as well, like with the Stormtrooper. So he can look down, he can bend forward a bit, he can look up, but then he can also bend back and look up. So gives him better range there. So that's nice. In terms of the hands and the arms, he's got the traditional, you know, sort of standard grip for the blaster. Can pivot in the wrist. Focus that for you. If I pivot in the wrist, he will completely turn in the wrist, which is nice. Means that he can sort of get into those grappling poses, you know, holding, for example, you know, like a steering wheel or control panel or something like that, other than just guns, which is nice. In terms of at the arm, so with the arm at the elbow, these elbow pads are like rubber, and they're loose so they can move up and down the arm. He does have like just above a 90 curl. You can see kind of there where some of that rubber paint has kind of rubbed off, but I can clean that up. So not too bad there. In terms of the shoulder, he's again like the Phase 1 clones. He's got that rubber shoulder pauldron, so you can come up over the top, as you can kind of see, if I can get in focus. So you can come up the top, so you can come just past 90 actually, which is good. He's quite free in the shoulders, and again, like I've said, you know, you can really manipulate that up there. He'll go up and around as well. So I like that these have been incorporated again. It's a good way to keep the build slender, but also make it you know, usable and able to move in a way that doesn't sort of just, you know, hinder him. He stops there and goes, oh well, you know, it's rubbing against the thing. You can push it sort of in there if you want, but I would just sort of maneuver it up over the top. In terms of, I mean, like in terms of his general articulation, it's pretty good, but obviously with the clones you have this quite specific kind of body shape. You can kind of see he's quite long in the legs, quite skinny in the torso, so quite particular. But again, once you get used to him, he's kind of like a Stormtrooper, you know. And obviously being a trooper, he's going to be in fights, so you can do all sorts of things and manipulate him in ways that you know, depending on your scene, can kind of benefit you. Obviously, if that's from a toy photography standpoint, from a from a display standpoint, he's obviously got fantastic presence. I mean, look at this guy, he looks awesome. I mean, yeah, looks awesome. So he's definitely got presence, so you know, his posability is, it's somewhat there, but I mean, even just standing there in a menacing sort of pose, he's going to look the part. Yeah. So I mean, moving on to the head and his helmet, as we've discussed, he's got that blank head sculpt in there, but I mean, look at that helmet. I mean, he's got the articulation completely 360. He's got a really good wiggle side to side, front and back. Again, he's got the kind of chicken neck as well, so he can kind of really get into all sorts of positions, which is really nice. I love that they've done this with instead of just the new builds, they've stopped using the ball and socket and they've put a head in there, because it just helps it look a lot more natural, and the shape of a sized head to this scale, rather than a massive bucket floating around on his head. So in terms of his head, I mean, that helmet just looks fantastic. I like that they've got the green visor, as I mentioned. I'm looking forward to seeing more of these guys, because I do think that it would be interesting to see if we see any clones in this role, or is it just specialists just brought in kind of from around the galaxy, which starts the kind of whole whole kind of run of stormtroopers and those Death Troopers, because obviously we know that the stormtroopers are going to come in, like we know that's going to happen, but it's how they're phased in. I think Tarkin bringing up the thing straight out out the gate of it's more cost effective to do it that way makes a lot of sense as to why they'd go that direction, because quite clearly we can see that clones are way more effective than stormtroopers, but obviously it's a money thing, so it'd be interesting to see that. So I'm going to switch this guy out for now, and just pop this guy in here all posed up for my final thoughts on the Elite Squad Clone Trooper from the Bad Batch. So I love this figure. I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome looking. I think the presence of the figure is really there. I think in terms of versatility, he's a clone, so you can use him in all sorts of ways. He's an elite clone trooper, so at the moment that's very open-ended. You can use him in the capacity of being a clone, or being just a normal human who's sort of under the helmet there. You can do prequel stuff, you can do merging into sort of original trilogy, that sort of stuff, so that's really good. Obviously, again, with clones and troopers, anything sort of soldier based you can do a lot with. It's very transferable, and I do think that this has got a lot of presence, that even if we only see them in the Bad Batch a handful of times and we don't see them again or hear about them again, I think this is an awesome character, an awesome figure. So sort of thinking about the score, I mean, versatility, you could argue that we don't know much about them yet, but I think with a clone of this kind of caliber, it's kind of like having a specialist stormtrooper, or like we say, Death Trooper or something. You can be very inventive in terms of toy photography or your display, in terms of and be very liberal about where you include them. I don't think you could only put them with Bad Batch figures or something like that. So I do think this figure is an awesome pickup, and I'm very happy to have it in the collection. I am going to be giving this figure an 8 out of 10. I do think it's very good. It's very good looking. Articulation is decent. It does leave something to be desired, but can't complain too much. In terms of versatility, again, I think that it's just like having a trooper. You could have a handful of these guys and use them in all sorts of ways, and you don't have to be too accurate as to where they would be and what time frame we're talking. Obviously, we'll see as we look into the first season of Bad Batch further. I'm looking forward to that. So leave a comment down below if you're watching, and tell me what you think of Bad Batch so far. Looking forward to episode 4 next week. Hopefully there's a little bit more action, but that's going to do it for here for me today, guys. So take care, and I'll see you in the next one.